Join us on the show right now from townhall.com. The first of at least two appearances this week here on Cam and Company, because Katie and her colleague Liz Meineke will be in studio on Friday. Katie Pavlich from townhall.com is with us. How you doing tonight, Katie?
Doing well. How are you, Cam?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on the show, and a really interesting and disturbing development in the prosecution of those believed to be responsible for the murder of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. The case is now gone under seal, and we're really not sure why.
Right. No, I mean, don't be. This is just such a slap in the face. I mean, it was as if we thought the corruption and the cover-up in the situation through Fast and Furious couldn't get any worse, right? Like you said earlier, I was at the fundraiser service on Saturday with the Terry family, and everyone in that room just wants some answers. And for that to happen this week, and then for now the case of Brian Terry's murder to be under seal and away from not only the public but the family, and it's just kind of mind-boggling. I know that we talk about this every time there's some new development, but it's just every week there's some other thing, and this is just unbelievable to me. But they're going to be getting sued by a whole bunch of people. They're going to be getting sued by the press. They're going to get sued by the Terry family. I mean, this is a federal case that should be open to the public, especially if they're not going to give anyone an explanation as to why it's closed and sealed now.
Well, absolutely. And, you talk about a slap in the face. I mean, first, the Terry family denied victim status in this case, and now they're not even going to get to know what the status is of the prosecution in their son's alleged killers.
Right.
I mean, as you say, the press is going to be all over this. There are going to be Freedom of Information Act requests. There's going to be attempts to unseal this. But this move, once again, I think shows just how little concern there is for the families of not just Brian Terry, but you have to wonder now the families of other Border Patrol agents. What would happen if another agent is killed in the line of duty? Is that case going to get sealed as well? Was this sealed because of Operation Fast and Furious? And there's concern that more information about Fast and Furious could get leaked out if this case is not under seal. Regardless, you still have a family now that is being kept in the dark about the efforts to bring their son's killer, their brother's killer, to justice.
Well, you know what, Cam, let's not forget last week the Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder, got up, took an oath to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help him God. And he got up and he said, I, out of anyone, am doing everything I can to help those of murdered agents get through everything and get to the bottom of those cases. Well, clearly you're not, because if you don't even want to let the Terry family know what's going on, after nearly a year of stonewalling and having no details about their family members' deaths whatsoever, none of us have seen a detailed report about what happened. None of us have really seen the details of even the guns that were used. None of us have seen a detailed report on the men that they were fighting and who took Brian Terry's life. And let's go back to what this family's been through for a second. You go back to Brian Terry was killed 9 days before Christmas last year.
Yeah.
And at that point, they were frustrated because, the policies of this administration and administrations prior to the federal government has failed to secure the border. So now our Border Patrol agents are fighting narco-terrorists in our Arizona deserts, in Texas. And so that's a problem. So they're frustrated with the fact that the border's not secure and that they're fighting really bad people there. That's their job every day. Then to come to find out, their son was killed as a result of the federal government giving these cartels, who are clearly going to come back across the border and face our Border Patrol agents and our sheriffs and our law enforcement, because the border's not secure. So then they find that out. And then they have no details about what happened to their son. They're denied victim status. And now their case is sealed. They have no details as to what happened. None.
Yeah, I mean, when you lay it out like that, Katie, it's again, it's just mind-boggling to me that this story hasn't gotten the coverage that it has. But it's not going to. I mean, clearly I don't even know if the news networks ran any coverage tonight. Maybe CBS had something on the press conference with Representative Gozer and the other members of Congress, but That's the other part that I got to tell you. I'm really glad that you've been following this story because, I think one of the most noble things that a journalist can do is to be a bulldog for those who don't have as loud a voice. And I would say that the Terry family falls into that situation right now. They don't have a voice that is as loud as it should be. And thanks to folks like you and Matthew Boyle, I think their voice is amplified, and I think that their story is getting out there. And, when people hear about the Terry family, obviously people are affected. I mean, I don't know how many people were at that fundraiser this weekend.
There were over 200 there. I mean, it was a pretty good crowd. And it was a positive thing, and the idea was to celebrate Brian's life. But like I wrote in my column about the story about what happened, it was just the elephant was in the room. It's not like they have closure. It's not like it was a celebration of, okay, we know what happened. We can all move on. Everyone is frustrated with the situation that we're in. And, reporting on this from day to day, week to week, I enjoy it and I like it, and I think it's really important to expose everything. But, some days it's hard, and it's really depressing to look at the amount of corruption just in this single case. So I can't imagine what's going on with the Terry family and how they feel. I just can't even imagine what they're going through and how they feel about this.
Well, we've got a little clip here from the fundraiser over the weekend. This is Lana Domino, who's been a guest on this program, a friend of the Terry family. Let's take a listen real quick.
I had the privilege to meet Brian Terry. So for those of you that don't know his character, nothing was impossible for Brian. And besides nothing was impossible for him, he wanted to motivate and to inspire others and push them to their limits that they thought that they could never reach. This is what truly made him an amazing character. And a person's character, it starts at home. It starts when you're born, and then you have siblings. Those siblings contribute to the characteristics of Brian Terry, his courage, his honor, his bravery. It all comes from Michelle, Kelly, Kent, and Josephine. You're an incredible mother. You are America's sweetheart of all mothers, and you raised an incredible man, and I am blessed to know who he is. And everybody who knows him will all tell you the same thing. He would give you the last dollar out of his pocket. He would give you the shirt off his back. And if you were having a bad day, he was determined by the end of that day to tell you, you know what, tomorrow's a new day and it could be a great day. It's only one day. And for everything that negative happens to you, there's something positive to come out of it. He was a very motivating person. And that all comes from his siblings and his mother. That's where it starts. His competitive drive, with others in sports. He tried out for BORTAC at 38, which is unheard of. And I had the privilege to meet Miguel Padilla, tried out for BORTAC with Brian, and told me a story. So the story he told me, he says, I'm an older gentleman. He goes, as was Brian. He says, and the rest of the younger men that were trying out, they were not mean, but they had turned to us and kind of looked at us and said, good luck, old men. With that grin, he says, so you kind of knew. He goes, and there was different stuff that we had to do. He says, but Brian, when he performed the one task, he says, and the instructor said the penalty for the task is that you will carry a man 3 miles. He says, Brian carried that man. He goes, and 1.5 miles into it, the instructors had instructed him, Brian, it's our mistake. You can put down the man. You didn't make a mistake. Brian continued on. He said, no. He continued on and he carried that man for 3 miles. He did that his whole life. And it wasn't just, he did that with his friends. He did it with his family. He loved his country as much as he loved his own family and friends. Thank you.
Again, Lana Domino, friend of the Terry family. I can only imagine what an emotional evening that was, Katie.
Cam, I think the biggest thing here is just how much disrespect this Justice Department and Eric Holder and Lanny Breuer have for just someone who has dedicated their entire life to serving their country. I mean, they really have, with all of their actions between not letting people know what's going on, stonewalling the oversight committee, lying about things, leaking, a letter to the press, an apology that was through an email, don't even have the dignity to write the family a handwritten note. And then for them to seal the case and say, you're no longer entitled legally to have any information about what happened to Brian Terry there's just so much disrespect there. And for a man who dedicated his entire life to respecting and upholding the laws of our country in order to keep us safe, it's just a really unfortunate situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Katie, glad you could be with us on the program tonight, and look forward to seeing you in studio later on in the week.
Yep, we'll see you on Friday.
All right, Katie Pavlich from townhall.com joining us here on the program.